Hello, welcome to the fifth episode in the series where Sam and I review some of his code and discuss his journey of becoming a software developer. Today, we discuss a number of things. We have a slightly shorter episode than usually. We start by celebrating the fact that Sam has completed his 100 days of code. Amazing, incredible. I followed every single video that he uploaded over that time. If you haven't seen it yet, he uploads all of his videos from the 100 days of code onto his Instagram account, and they're super cool to be able to see the progress that he's going through. A lot of the exercises that we're discussing here in these calls are actually also being uploaded onto his Instagram account. We get into talking about how this experience went for him. He actually decided to carry on doing these kind of videos, no longer calling them 100 days of code, but quite simply days of code. So he turned that into a concept of his own, where he just shares with the world what he's been learning over the days that pass. Uploads that into Instagram still. So we talk about that a little bit before getting into discussing build systems. So one of the things that we thought that it would be good for Sam to catch up on was build systems, and we prepared an exercise for him to build a simple build system using Gulp for a simple web app. So we go over that exercise and see how it went for him. We discuss how he finds build systems and what they really are. We even talk about where do they come from, and get into the understanding a little bit more what all of the files in your project directory in your web app actually do, and understanding what they do, what is package.json do, and how important it actually is to know what all these particular files do for your web app, for your project. Eventually, we actually get to talking about Sam's portfolio side. He has been preparing his portfolio over the last couple of weeks as well, so we do a short review of that. As you know, we've been discussing how the portfolio should be made for quite a while, and eventually decided that he'll just use a template that he found somewhere else to build his portfolio. So we go over the template that he used and how the portfolio looks like right now, and do a little bit of a UX and UI review on that, trying to understand what type of information he wants to be showing to the visitors of his portfolio, and sort of discussing the user experience on his website, on his portfolio website, trying to understand how to showcase all of his skills in the best way possible. Eventually, as always, we discuss some of the next steps and trying to understand what is it that he could be doing still. But frankly, as you can probably tell, we're getting really close to the date when we'll be able to start looking at his CV and at his cover letters and start sending some applications. So exciting times, and I'm really glad we got this far already. As usual, hoping that you're going to enjoy this episode and you find something useful in there. As I mentioned, it's significantly shorter than the previous episode that lasted a little bit too long, so it's much more manageable to just take it in one gulp. Yeah, enjoy. And we're live. Hello, Sam Chilcott. Welcome to the fifth episode, fifth recording. It is already fifth, yeah. Yeah.
Time is flying, mate.
Fifth recording of the two of us talking about how is your programming journey going. So, Sam, how is your programming journey going?
Thanks for asking, Voy. Firstly, welcome to the show, everyone. Going good, thanks, mate. Yeah, I've done a fair bit since we last spoke. You sent me a couple of challenges, and I've completed them, mainly around a Gulp build system, and I've also had a play with Gatsby and got an MVP portfolio site up and running. The journey as a whole, I think I could sum it up brilliantly by yesterday, spending 5.5 hours trying to do something, not really succeeding, but still enjoying it. And I think that's a definite shift in from spending 3 hours not being able to do it, being properly pissed off, angry, and annoyed for the whole day.
Yeah.
I've had a big mental shift over the last couple of months. I think I touched upon it last episode as well.
Yeah, you did.
I've shifted way more into being able to enjoy coding and sit down and do it for hours, and then think, whoa, hang on a minute, I've been sat here for ages. I haven't even eaten for a while, which I didn't think was possible when I was going through that stage of God damn you, code.
Also, like at the very beginning, when everything's very, very new, it's a very different receiver, isn't it? Whereas now it's more like a puzzle solving slowly.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I realized the other day. I said, learning does not equal problem solving. It's not the same thing. It takes a little, it's not as taxing, basically.
Yeah.
So thoroughly enjoyed it. So the Gulp project, when I do my projects, I tend to just sort of create a Google document and have like a to-do list, which has like subheadings, and I just work my way through it and love it. It's like each little subtask takes me, like 5, 10, maybe an hour.
Yeah.
And I cross it off and it's like, right, what's next? And there's that OCD part of me that just wants to tick everything off. So I guess that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it means I tick everything off, but I'll spend ages trying to do it and maybe spend longer than I need to, when I can just either ask someone or not worry about doing it. Like, it's not really a big deal. Just because it's on the list doesn't mean it has to be done.
Yeah, true.
But yes, I'm really enjoying it now, mate. Long story short.
You even told me. Yeah, no, that's perfect, mate. Like, I remember you saying that there was one day you spent more like 6.5 hours doing the work.
Yeah.
Decent. That's getting really, really close to. I mean, essentially, if that was 6.5 hours of flow state, that's probably what will be a norm if you're doing like an 8-hour day shift. You are sort of expected to spend about 6.5 hours, actually being in there. If if you ever work in the office, you'd easily spend an hour and a half chatting to people, going to the loo, making the tea, all different things, right? So actually spending 8 hours a day can often mean just 6.5, actually doing the proper work. I'm trying to up these numbers myself when I'm working on my own, but I'd still probably, out of the 8 hours I do a day, there's still about an hour I'm just like taking time off, making tea, all sorts of things. Yeah, good job. Well, another thing that he did recently, massive milestone, was reaching the 100th day of the 100 days of code. Yes. How did that go? Well done, man. Well done.
Thank you, mate.
I loved the response. I love how many people commented on that last video and how many people congratulate you on it.
Yeah, no, it's lovely, mate, to be honest, because I think I just used Instagram because I was already on it and thought, well, because I was used to doing little videos anyway. So when I started the challenge, I thought, let me do little videos. But I've made quite a few friends through doing it as well, and people have found me, they've followed me, they've encouraged me, and I've done the same. I've sort of followed other people doing either that challenge or people that are more established coders, and just built up quite good relationships with people. And just you see what other people are up to and vice versa, and you just sort of check in. Oh, how's it going? Oh, well done. Da, 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 da. Yeah. So it's been a really pleasant side effect of doing the challenges. Obviously, I've got 100 days of experience under my belt now, but I've also gained. Feel like I'm part of a community and gained some new friendships out of it. So, enjoyed it. Someone asked me how it was the other day, and I said it was a roller coaster, because I started off just learning and just copying tutorials, watching tutorials. That's quite easy. 4 hours a day, whatever, bro. Yeah. And then we jumped into, okay, now it's time for you to code, Sam. And that's when it went... And it dropped down into just frustration, anger, hatred, depression. I'll admit there was a few tears, or if not close to tears. Not like, just, I guess it was just frustration, because I didn't know how to do it. There's not being able to do something, but there's also not being able to correct it, or how to know how to do it.
Fucking hell, yeah, absolutely.
It was really painful, but with your encouragement, and I always keep talking about those debugging skills. It's like having the ability to know where you're going wrong and what to do as an alternative. Without that, you're screwed. So once I had those skills under the belt, it just got easier and easier, because although I was coming across stuff which I didn't know, I knew where to look, I knew what to try, and I knew if that didn't work, I knew what to try next. So yeah, it was a roller coaster. It went from easy to holy shit, this is hard, to actually it's getting easier again. Now I bloody love it. So it was a journey. It was a journey, and I'm enjoying coding even more now, because I'm not under that psychological pressure of doing a challenge, which I made a note in today's caption, is that a lot of that pressure I put on myself. because I wanted to do the 100 days as quick as I could. I didn't really want to take days off. I felt guilty if I did. I wanted to do all this extra stuff with Instagram and posting this here and doing all the notes and stuff. And it was extra pressure I put on myself. So what I'm doing now is just a way less stressful version. So it's still learning stuff. It's still documenting the journey, but just making that whole process just simpler for me. And doing it in my own time. So I'm enjoying the coding even more now as a result of coming out the back of that challenge.
That's a fair way to summarize. I have to say, I felt super sad when the first day came and I didn't have a video from you in the evening that I could check out, because I've been so looking forward to these. Obviously, being involved in your progress and seeing how far you're making it, and especially when these were challenges that I set myself, just kind of checking your progress on that. So yeah, the first evening that I wasn't there, I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do on Instagram now? Everything else is so boring.
Yeah, but it was weird to not do a video as well.
Can you imagine?
Even on the days off, I was still doing
something.
Videos. Again, something which you didn't have to do as part of the challenge, but I put it on myself. So interestingly, what was really hard this weekend is to not do anything. Like just getting used to that muscle to switch off mentally and physically. Like I didn't do any exercise. I just thought, let me just take 2 days off and chill out. And I found it a struggle because I just wanted to go and do something and learn something and go running. And
I feel the exactly same way.
It's a new muscle. It's a new thing that I'm going to have to work with.
I mean, frankly,
sorry, Carol.
No, go on.
I was going to say I knew people had that struggle, but I never had it myself up until now, or at least I never felt like I had to switch off.
Yeah, see,
but I think physically and mentally, I wasn't sustaining myself. Like I was draining myself quite a bit doing towards the end of that challenge. I wasn't recovering enough. I was just sort of pedal to the metal, which can only last so far. But I knew there was an end in sight, so I thought, well, let me just pedal to the metal, get to 100, and then relax. But I've realized the importance of physical and mental recovery to give the energy to go and carry on.
No, I suppose because like to many people, weekends are this type of recovery time when you work your ass on Monday, Friday, and then you have 2 days off, and that's meant to like regenerate those batteries and fill you up with passion and energy to carry on. But what I found is that when I started doing projects that I enjoyed a lot, I didn't feel like stopping on the weekends, but I also didn't feel like I was tired outside of the weekends. When it's something I really enjoyed, I didn't stop myself from doing it on the weekend, and I still do up until today. I changed my work schedule different a little bit, because previously I do something about 5 hours a day, but I do every day of the week. I didn't take weekends off for over a year, and I liked it a lot. Like doing just 5 hours a day means you've still got plenty of time during the day to yourself to do other things, when like you recharging these batteries a little bit, and also each day you deplete them a little less. But then you never take a day off, or like when you do, it's much more rare than once a week, right, for 2 days. And I suppose what I'm trying to say, as long as as you're on top of it and like you're enjoying it, then don't artificially cut yourself off from stuff you want to be doing, because that's what I think that's why finding a passion in something you do is so important, because it doesn't feel like you're draining yourself at all. Like when I sit on a Saturday afternoon and I do a bit of code because I want to, I don't feel any more or less tired. Even the opposite, I do other things and think, oh shit, I came up with this new way to fix this problem I had in code. I really, really want to do that instead of like sitting on a couch and like watching a TV series. So I skip on that. I go to coding. I still count it as my work because it is, but it doesn't feel like I'm draining myself. So obviously there is a work to life balance. You want to avoid workaholism and all that. But if you don't want to do weekends, don't do them, and you'll be perfectly fine. I feel, as long as you're enjoying it, I think.
Yeah, no, you make a very valid point, Roy, and it relates back to one of my coaching videos that I did a while back around boosters and drainers, and it's just dawned on me that coding could actually be a booster for me. As in, although it's doing work, I'll leave it feeling more energized.
Absolutely, yeah.
I've just realized I think it is now. It wasn't previously, during that roller coaster. It was like coding was a massive drainer.
Yeah,
like,
but that's what you said.
It was mentally just be like, brr.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's what you said. It was learning, wasn't it? Like learning is difficult, is tiring. Whilst, yeah, it's like when you code your stuff, you want to come up with solutions. When solutions come in, or like you feel like, oh, I left that thing hanging, I want to come back and finish it. It's like a cliffhanger in a TV show. Like you want to come back and do it, right? Yeah. Absolutely. And the fact that it's so peaceful, like it's quiet, it's something I talk about in this video we were talking about before, the new YouTube video that I posted on the same channel that you're watching this particular video on. Self-promotion. So as I mentioned, it's a very calm job. So like it doesn't drain you physically as much. And as long as your brain is on a good state of like, I'm not like exhausting myself, it's just fun. And, you know, I could go and play a video game where I solve puzzles. I could be solving puzzles in my project equally well. It's both downtime for me. It's both kind of weekend time, if I could put it this way.
Thanks for bringing it to my attention. That's a good reframe. And it's something which it hadn't dawned on me until you said that.
Okay, fair play. Although, you know, what you're saying is that you having been through this time when you were kind of burnt out and were low and, like you say, depressed, that's the times you definitely want to pay attention to and not do it and then like skip it. I often, when I find myself in times that I find it more difficult to carry on working, to be fair with myself, I just switch the type of work I do. So I still can do the hours I want, so I don't feel guilty by the end of the day, but I don't keep on pushing in a direction that pisses me off and drains me. So often, like for instance, now when I do work on videos and coding, when I'm tired with either, I would just switch. And maybe, you know, I was meant to do 8 hours of coding today. Well, I'll do 6 hours of coding and 2 hours of video editing. And that way, I can let go, but I can still complete the day.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, good tip.
Yeah. So also you mentioned to me previously that you've turned your 100 days of code into days of code. Do you want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah. I enjoyed the 100 days of code and thought I still, like a lot of people, including yourself, were asking, you know, what are you going to do next? Or, you know, are you still going to do videos? And I thought, well, I still want to do videos, but I didn't want to do all the extracurricular stuff around that whole 100 days of code challenge. I didn't want to do a specific time period because I looked at doing maybe 30 days, but
yeah.
So I just came up with my own format and just made it up and said, well, let me just code whenever I want to, and then I'll make a video that day, and it can be super simple. I won't do any of the extracurricular stuff that's either usually suggested as part of a challenge or that I add to my own work list. So I'm just pretty much doing the same, but just it's on my own time base. So if I code that day, I'll do a video, and I'll just post it without 50 hashtags probably. And just keep that whole process simple. And I think I noticed when I was doing 100 days of code, there was a part of me that wanted my videos to progress in a linear fashion. And I would sometimes maybe tailor my learning so it made sense in the grand scheme of the feed, which now I'm sort of less fussed about that and thought, well, let me learn this one day and I'll do a video about it. And then the next day I'll jump over to this, something completely different. So
sure,
it's all under my rules now. I've made my own challenge. I've made my own rules, but I still want to and will be doing daily videos. So enjoying code even more again, yeah.
Oh, so daily? You still want to keep it as a day by day?
I'd say weekday at least. And then if I do work on weekends, I'll add them. And if I don't, I don't. And I won't do a day off video either. So, yeah, just almost making it up as I go along. And I'm doing these, I guess, in batches every month. So then when we come to August, I might do a different format, do a different platform, have a play with something different. Who knows? Be flexible.
I'm very happy you carried on with the format. As I've mentioned to you many times before, very much enjoy watching your 100 days of code videos every day. So
I've enjoyed making them, and like I said, I've enjoyed the fact that, I mean, they're not massively technical, so that I'm sure they don't teach people a lot of stuff, but I've had a lot of comments about them being inspiring. You know, whether for people to either do the challenge or just get up and do some work or just go and learn, or just, you know, if it gives someone else a buzz that they watch that video and go, yeah, I want to go and do something, then that's an extra bonus for me. I mean, I would have put the video up there anyway, but there's a part of me that likes creating something and making it public. I mean, what was interesting is even on the weekend, I found myself spending probably 2 hours making like coaching related documents, which I used to do with my coaching. I'd read about a topic, make a document and stick it on my website so then my clients and other people could read it, because I spent 2-3 hours reading it. I can make this document where they can just spend 15 minutes and get all the decent concepts out of it.
Yeah.
I thought, well, it's just wasted sat on my hard drive. Let me make it public. So I've realized just that process of creating and making public, I enjoy. So even though I'm sort of not doing as much coaching anymore, I was like, oh, why am I doing this still? And it's like, because I enjoy doing it.
So how about we jump into reviewing the Gulp exercise that you had?
Let's.
Do you wanna show your screen?
Yeah, let me fire it up.
So it was a very simple exercise, quite simply based around turning some SAS files into CSS files, minifying, uglifying your JavaScript code, wasn't it?
Yes. Here we are, my Gulp build system.
Beautiful. So what app did you do it on? Because you were talking to me about making it on your previous projects or on your portfolio website, but in the end...
Yeah, I guess when I first looked at the project, I thought, well, let me just... It would make sense to do it on my portfolio project, because that was the little project I did prior to this. But I think the way that it would have been a bit more complicated for me to work with React and Gulp. So I thought, well, let me just use a plain JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript project that has some SAS in. And then I realized I didn't have any of those projects myself. So I spent a while just trying to find a random repo on GitHub and basically cloned that. So use that as like the main project file.
Yeah, no, that's
like app.
That's a good choice.
Added my Gulp build system to that. So that was quite an interesting process in itself. Just trying to work with other people's code and other people's code bases, like how to find it, how to read other people's structures and code as well was quite an interesting challenge for this. So yeah, the app that I ended up using, as I found out later, didn't actually work, or at least it didn't work how it was supposed to. But at the time, I didn't worry about it because I thought, well, let me just get my Gulp build system. Because all I need to do is get those files appearing in the dist or the build folder, and I'll be happy.
Cool.
But with the benefit of hindsight, it would have been better to use an app that actually worked. But yeah,
that's pretty good. No, fair play.
Yeah, so as a whole, I got it. I got the Gulp. Did a bit of reading on Gulp, understood what the point of it was and how it related and how it differed to other, what would you call them?
Task runners.
Task runners and like module. I can't think what they're called. But things like Webpack, which is slightly.
Yeah, these are different things. Yeah.
So I did a lot of peripheral reading around the concepts before I even got stuck into any code, really. And as part of this challenge, it was to keep to the official docs as much as possible. Yeah. Which I actually struggled with on this because they weren't massively detailed, and I think you sort of alluded that may be the case sometimes. Is you'll find, a certain technology or software, and it's not massively obvious how to implement it.
Very much so. Yeah.
So that was quite interesting for me to be able to do as much as I could with the official docs, but then I had to go and look elsewhere to get it working, basically. And what was quite cool about this is obviously each task had different sort of sub elements. So I think I worked out I had 4 tasks to run, namely clean, SAS, JS, and I can't even remember what the other one was. Copy. Mm-hmm. And then each of them had their own little sort of sub-tasks. So I think understanding JavaScript definitely helps. Like it was cool how I was looking at how some of these were set up, and I could read and understand what all the code was doing and why it was placed where. Mm-hmm. So long story short, I just spent a little time going through each of these tasks and managed to get it working. So although it's, what are we on now? Say 33 lines of code. It took me a good few days to get my head around the concepts and understand how to get it working in my context, because one of the pitfalls I had was when I moved away from the official docs and started following tutorials, I realized that some tutorials can be outdated quite quickly.
Oh yeah.
And I've never really bothered checking the dates on tutorials and stuff. I just do it.
Yeah, definitely do.
But I've found now that, I'd start copying one and then I would execute it and it would say, we don't do that anymore. Use this module instead. And then I'd have to go and install that module and then add it to the dependency. So I learned a lot about, again, peripheral stuff around package managers and stuff like that.
Okay, cool.
So
no, that sounds to me like it was a perfect challenge, because it laid out so many additional challenges on the way that I didn't foresee, but and neither have you.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant that you did run into these issues, all of them. Both, the fact that documentation wasn't perfect. Frankly, only after I set it for you, I tried to check some things on Gulp and I found the same thing. I was reading through it and I was surprised how some things aren't as clear as they could be. Weirdly enough, because Gulp is a very popular library, it could be that we're just reading it incorrectly or we missed something obvious.
Possibly, yeah.
I was obviously skipping through it.
It was almost like it didn't do the finer details. Like it told me how to set up a task, but didn't give me any examples of what I might use.
Yeah.
Like you'd have thought compiling some Sass would have been quite a popular one. It says, if you want to compile Sass, use this.
That's the thing, yeah.
It never told me, so I had to go and figure that out myself. And again, tried to avoid follow-along tutorials, because I could have easily typed in how to compile Sass in Gulp 2020 or whatever and found something which goes through step by step. But I deliberately didn't do that and almost used a bit of Stack Overflow and found a couple of repos that used it. And then the more you do it, the more you realize which was the old way of doing it and which are the updated modules that people use to get it working. Because one of the things I also discovered is there's a shed load of different modules out there.
Oh yeah.
And there's a shed load for each task as well. So there's different options, whereas I thought there's probably about, I don't know, like 400. And it's very rare that two of them do the same thing. But now I've looked into NPM and understanding a bit more about that side of stuff, it's made me understand what packages are really, because I kind of didn't really know before. I still don't fully get it. But
if in a couple of sentences, then what packages are to you today?
Don't question.
Don't have to get it right, obviously. It's just I'm wondering.
Okay, well, if I was to attempt that today, I would say they're almost like, I think someone described them as like building blocks that you can bring into a project to do certain things. It's almost like pre-built stuff. Because the node modules folder, when it appeared when I first started using React and stuff, used to scare me. I was like, what the hell is this folder?
Right.
Why has it got so much stuff in it? And can I delete it? Because it just annoyed me. So even just understanding what it does. And just the whole, to be honest, the whole build process just baffled me, which is why I guess we chose to do a project on this side of things, because I'd either accidentally or had to do build processes on a couple of prior projects that threw me off so much that I didn't know how to get stuff working after I did a build. So one of the main things I've come away from this project with is understanding why you need a build process and what it does to the project folder structure as a whole. Okay. Which really helped in tidying up some old projects that I had to do for the portfolio. So
nice.
Yeah, like you say, 33 lines of code, but I've learned so much about a lot of stuff.
Cool. No, and your definition of packages could be argued with. You'd find a lot of people, having their own definitions of it, but I think it summarizes it pretty well. Yeah, a lot of modern development, especially when it comes to web, mobile, etc. It is reusing other people's code. Quite dependent on what you're trying to build, what is your scenario, how much of it you can do. There's good arguments for not doing it too much as well, so that could be worth looking into someday. just as a interesting reading, why you shouldn't include too many other packages and be dependent on other things. Almost think about it like, in your life, the more other people you're dependent on, the kind of the worse it can be, essentially. The more independent you are, the better. It kind of translates, to some degree onto coding, interestingly enough. Something on build that just occurred to me is that I'm not sure if you're aware that build actually exists outside of JavaScript as well, outside of web. The actual word build, do you know where it comes from? Why do we use that word? Because I know you've used it. I know that, it was confusing to you for a while. And now you said that you're getting, a bit better at understanding what it is in JavaScript and all that. But did you come across building in general in context of programming?
No, not really.
Right. That's what I thought. See,
tell me more.
Yeah, it is pretty cool because now that I thought about it, I look at it from that perspective, and that's why everything makes sense to me straight away when I think about building in JavaScript. But then if I were to reverse it, maybe it wouldn't be so straightforward. So you see, when you write code, for instance, C++, Java, C, whatnot, right? You've definitely heard of these languages, right?
Yeah.
You have to compile them so that the computer, the machine you're running it on, would be able to run them. Your code that you write in JavaScript right now is being taken to your browser and is being run there. So you don't usually see that sort of intermediate step. The code you write, you just kind of is being almost shipped to your browser and displayed there and run there, and all happens directly. But if you were to ever write any C code, any C++ code, any Java code, not JavaScript, Java code, there are two stages. Every single time you want to run something, you first have to do this compilation stage. And I don't want to be lying right now about exactly what compilation means, but in my head, it means turning the human readable code into machine code. Right? And it probably is oversimplification, but in general, like the code that you write is not something that your computer is going to understand and like. It likes it differently. It likes it in a different way. So there's actually like a number of sort of layers of sort of abstractions that lay on top of one another. On the very bottom, you have the machine code, which are like the very, very sort of almost not binary, but very sort of hard to understand type of code that humans don't read. On top of that, I think you have assembly code. Have you heard of assembly before?
Yeah, it rings a bell.
Yeah, there is web-assembly, I believe, right? I'm not sure if that's the same. We've got the assembly layer. Then on top of that, you're building those higher-level languages such as C, C++, etc. Then on top of that, you build yet further languages such as, I believe, JavaScript compiles in some way to some lower-level language. So essentially, the compilation is the process when you turn that C code into the lower-level code. I believe that will be to assembly, and then that possibly then gets compiled to machine-level code. And that process has to happen before you run it. So you can't just run the code you write. You have to first compile it and then you run it. And then this compilation also can involve other things such as linking libraries, linking other packages, whatever else it may mean. So that first step before you run, that first step is called building. That's where building comes from. People have been building their code since forever. Now, the web came in and you had pre-processing languages such as Sass. You had, JavaScript that can be minified and uglified and all that. And because it happens before you, quote unquote, run your code, before it gets, shipped to your client's browser, before it gets run there, it happens before that on your, local distribution, on your repository on your computer. We use the same terminology. It's building. It's the process of just simply doing something to your code before it can be run. Whereas in case of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, by running we mean displaying and running on a browser. But in context of any other languages, you're generally describing a process of just either compilation or some other pre-processing that you may be doing to your code, essentially. So there are these two stages in many, many, many other languages, just not in JavaScript in particular.
Cool.
Or not so much that we'd hear about it a lot. Anyway, a little bit of programming history 101.
Yeah, it's always cool to know, mate.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, so jumping back on the Gulp, can you talk to us briefly about what your code does? Because we have, 4 tasks, right? Clean, Sass, JS, and then the last one was copy.
Copy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just a brief overview, because they're obviously pretty self-explanatory. I can see that you're bringing in some packages, then you're defining these tasks, but just go over with this. And
yeah, so the clean task, what it does is cleans out the dist folder, which is where everything's going to get put into after the build process. So it basically cleans it out before it whacks the updated or new code in.
Mm-hmm.
The Sass function basically, I'm trying to remember what this actually does. It converts it. So I did this a couple of weeks ago. I can't even remember what half of this does. It minifies it and then uglifies it. No, other way around. Oh, I can't even remember.
No, so what I'm thinking is, first thing you have to do with Sass is probably to convert it to CSS.
Yeah,
So that's what that's
exactly what it is.
First line would
Sass
be.
to CSS, and then CSS minified, and then it sends it to the CSS folder, which is this one here.
Decent.
The JavaScript does fairly similar. It concats, so it takes all of the JavaScript files, which I don't even think there was that many here. There's just 2. So it concats them, which means it joins it into one.
Yeah.
And then it uglifies them, which basically makes it deliberately unreadable.
Yeah.
So people can't sort of decipher your business logic. And then it throws it into the scripts subfolder over here.
Mm-hmm.
And copy basically then takes all the other stuff that needs to go in this folder that doesn't need anything done to it. And it basically looks at the static assets here, which is the images, the music tracks, and I think it takes the
index, yeah.
It takes the index, yeah.
Yeah, the HTML itself, sure.
So yeah, that's pretty much what it does. And the whole point of that build is then if you give someone this dist folder, they've got everything they need to go and serve that website.
Yeah. Fantastic. I can even see on the bottom you did one sequential task and the rest are parallel.
Yeah.
Do you understand that?
So this bottom bit is you can tell Gulp to run the copy task or the JS task, or you can set it up to do a sequence of them, which can be run either in series or parallel or both, depending on what you want to do.
Yeah.
So when I type in Gulp, which is my default command, it will first, in series, it will run the clean task, then it will fire off the next 3 all at the same time. So Sass, JS, and copy, those are done in parallel.
Fantastic.
So always make sure it does that clean first.
That's great.
That was almost like the cherry on top. So once I knew I got all the 4 functions working individually, I knew it was just a case of making sure they do it in the right order. So it's actually a really enjoyable project. And also the other thing that really, like I mentioned before, was just understanding what the hell a package.json file does. I mean, I've always seen it around, never messed with, never gone into it, never touched it.
Ah, okay. Well, that's very useful. We did this and it forced you to, because it's very useful to understand it. Absolutely. Yeah,
mainly because I don't know if it must have, did it exist before? No, I think I created it. But yeah, just understanding all about dev dependencies, making sure all of these are up to date. So that's one solution to one of the problems I was having. I thought it might be, maybe my modules need updating. So I updated all my modules. I don't think it solved the issue I was having, but it was cool that I went and understood what that process was, because if you install a package and then try and run it and it doesn't work, you need to check whether you've got it listed correctly in the dependencies. So sometimes I would, it would have I'd miss out the Gulp prefix. And I was like, why isn't this working? But just understanding that package file has really helped. And again, really helped me in the stuff I've been doing this week. It was just a really enjoyable project that was just perfectly targeted again to what I needed to learn, and it was around the right skill level. So none of this was hard per se, but it just took time to understand how to get stuff to execute how you want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Okay, well, I'm super glad we picked it up. Yeah, definitely. That package JSON, actually, it's good you got to understand it a little bit better as well, because building web apps, you're going to be seeing a lot of it. But in general, the concept of having this kind of one sort of governing summary, almost like a manifest file. In in Node.js, it's package.json, but in other languages, you'll have something similar too. Not only in languages, I would say even in other frameworks, there usually is this sort of one, almost like a configuration file, and to be able to recognize that one is such a file in a repository you could be looking at, or or trying to introduce some new framework that you could be building, to recognize a manifest file like this and sort of at least get an idea, why is it there? Okay, because it governs how, some of the other components within this project work, right? What are they dependent on? Who built it? I don't know, you can like track bugs on there as well, right? So there are different things.
Yeah, you can do quite a bit with it, because I ended up working a lot with it in this project, but as part of my portfolio, I went back and updated one of my first React projects, and the folder structure, it was all over the shop. It was an absolute mess. So I had to basically redo my whole package JSON file manually.
Right.
And delete a load of stuff, update, change it, because it was just all over the shop. So
that's great.
Because I'd run through it in this Gulp challenge, I kind of knew what needed to be done and what bits could take out when I was looking at my weather app.
Oh, that's fantastic, mate. Yeah. No, being able to,
it really was.
To do something like that is essential. Very often you'd accidentally throw your code, your package, your project into a state like this. So we're discussing, potentially doing it together, and me sort of just showing you how that could be done. But very essential skill. If you could, untangle it yourself, yet another thing on your long list of I done it. I know how to do that.
Yeah, because you kind of take it for granted usually. If you run like create React app, it sets it all up for you, and you just take it for granted. But I realize, I look back at what I must have been doing when I was doing my weather app, was putting stuff in the wrong place, moving stuff, importing stuff from other people's code, and it was like it was just incoherent, and I had no idea what any of it did, let alone where it should be. Whereas now I can look at this whole, left-hand side of the folder structure and understand what pretty much, if we look at all this, I know what all of this does now. Maybe that package lock I'm not quite sure on, but I understand what Git ignite, I understand what all of these do and how best to organize these folders now, which that alone is something that it's not really on a lot of people's reading list when it comes to learning code and programming, but it's a vital skill, because it's tripped me up on my last two projects. Is running a build, stuff's moved and changed, and I can't, something as simple as not being able to use localhost anymore. I couldn't understand why I couldn't run localhost. Now I know that, I'm still not quite sure, but I know that you can then, I'd have to use a static server after I run a build. So I then had to understand what a static server was, how to do it in Node.
Yeah.
And then that's basically it's the same as localhost from what I gather, but it just looks at the dist folder or the build folder as opposed to the root folder. I think that's what the difference is. But again, something that's vital like that, I don't see it in many people's things you need to know about code lists.
Yeah.
It's almost like a peripheral skill, which, I guess by default I've run into it and had to learn it because I wanted to tidy up some of these old projects.
Yeah.
Which, if you don't know what those files and folders and why they're there and what's in them, you can end up ruining the project, basically.
Absolutely. No, you're highlighting something extremely important, is that it's okay. Like it's perfectly fine that you did these mistakes when you were doing your weather app, because we were focusing on a completely different set of skills. That was about building your first real thing, right? So by no means blame yourself. When I look at my first project structures, they are horrible, and I'm ashamed. And I think about how it did make sense to me back then, and I can't understand how it made sense to me. Yeah. How did I not see it as something completely off? But again, like you're unfamiliar in an environment, you'll make mistakes. You play guitar for the first time, your fingers will be off, will go in the wrong strings, and that's fine. And you listen to your recordings 5 years ago, they will sound shit. So it's all fine. It's about like it progressing. But you're reaching the point where you're good enough of a developer. I would say this is far ahead from where I thought you were. But knowing that your understanding of what exactly happens to your code is really important. You shouldn't leave it to sort of a chance, right? Oh, I'm just going to type this, npm build whatever React, right? And hope that things will work out because a website says so. It's more about seeing, okay, what is my project structure looking like before I do it? What is it looking like afterwards? If there's something I don't understand, I want to find out. I want to Google it. I want to find what these new files are. Why does it put package.json in my root? Following up on it, so at least you have, you don't have to be an expert on it, but you have an intuition what exactly is happening to your code, and only then you can be responsible for it, right? It's not so much of an issue when you're building, a weather app for your portfolio, but the moment you want to be deploying some code that users are going to be using, you don't want to question yourself, oh, is my build actually turning my SAS files to my CSS files? Or like, how is it doing it? Am I just using a tool that is, completely obfuscated from me and I can't see how that process, goes through? Or can I, say, oh, okay, I'm reading files here, I'm converting them to CSS here, and I'm turning them to, minified here, and then I'm writing there. So it's all step by step that I'm, going through that little process of demystifying, I suppose, the things that are happening to you. Very important skills. Yeah, no, seriously, man. So well done.
Yeah, because it would always. It made me very uncomfortable. I remember even when I was running the builds on those early projects, it was like, shit, I don't know what this is doing, but as long as it's working, I don't care. Whereas now it did kind of shoot me in the foot a bit. And being someone who's like highly organized, borderline OCD, I like having that project structure, knowing what's where and deliberately purging and deleting stuff that doesn't need to be there. Which is dangerous if you don't know what those folders and files do.
Essentially, don't delete your node modules.
Sorry. Yeah, exactly.
Do that.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing I would have done in the past is, well, what's this file? Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. And then suddenly something doesn't work because you deleted 10 files. You don't know which one that you removed is actually causing the mess up. But,
No, good. Brilliant. Okay, well done. Essentially,
thank you.
I'm really happy you went through this project. I admit that it took you longer than I thought it would, but only because we found all these extra issues along the way that almost we could subscribe them into that challenge, right? So it was much longer than what the document stated, which is fantastic. And you more than anything, you enjoy doing it, which is great to hear too. I very much was happy that was the case. So cool, brilliant.
But I think that's what I'm finding. Like even like today, I spent 5.5 hours trying to work out something specific, which once you know it is probably a 20-second job. But the process of trying this over here, that doesn't quite work. Let me try that. And even though you don't really solve it, you learn so much about the other stuff that's going to come in handy. So this was a prime example of that. Is yes, the project took me longer than it probably needs to on paper, but I needed to go through that process, and all of that time that I spent doing it, even if I went down a rabbit hole which an expert eye knows it's irrelevant, I've learned something by going down that rabbit hole.
Okay, cool.
So
probably just last comment on that, because you brought up something I wanted to make a comment on as well. You mentioned how watching some outdated tutorials can be dangerous. I wanted to just add to that. You often will end up reading answers on Stack Overflow. Check the date they were posted. There's a ton of stuff being posted around either when the platform really got popular, I think is 2011 kind of plus. I see a ton of answers from that time when a lot of those fundamental questions were asked about some languages, or when a particular framework got popular. Or language, whatever. That's when a lot of questions get asked and a lot of them get answered. Well, if already a substantial amount of years have passed since then, the answers have changed. And the problem is that, the answer with the most points, the accepted answer, will no longer be the way to do it. But yet that's the first thing you see, that's the first thing you read, and you will just copy paste it, right? So a good idea is to just check, is it, essentially make a call the moment you see it. Is it reasonable? If it isn't reasonable, maybe there is a second answer, and that answer is from a year ago, and that could help you out a lot. Very common, very often that happens. So
good point.
Good thing to keep in mind.
Only really come across that recently, but it's definitely worth checking, because although even the older code might work, there's probably a better way of doing it. You know, like I found even when I was following some of these build ones, it was saying use this module, and then you would follow it and you would use the module, but then NPM or someone would say, we don't use that one anymore, it's deprecated, use this one. So then you'd have to go off, you'd have to go and spend another couple of minutes finding that, installing that, adding it, doing all that stuff, which could have saved you a bit of time. But that's something I'll definitely keep an eye on.
Good point, when you do get deprecated stuff, it's often easy to take the keyword that's been deprecated, the function called class, whatever it is, and then go like deprecated or migration guide and just Google that phrase. Very often the official distributor of whatever you're using will have some sort of upgrading guide from that particular functionality you're using. So if, for instance, Gulp, made, I don't know, pipe function, deprecated. If you just go Gulp pipe, migration guide or like deprecation, then you'll probably find some results on how to convert your code over. It's quite a common keyword to be Googling, like just whatever it is deprecated, and you'll find some answers for that too. Yeah, but these are just like, just asterisks to what we're talking about.
No, good shout.
So did you get a chance to look at Terminal at all? Because we spoke about that briefly.
No, right, I think after I did this, I went, if I remember rightly, I think I then went into Gatsby and the portfolio site. I know we had a list of other things to look at. Although having said that, I did have a quick look at Terminal because I'd been using it a lot within VS Code, just understanding a bit more about, because I mean, even just the basics, like I even thought CD was create directory up until the other day. So I was always scared of typing that. I was like, I don't want to make a folder. So why would I type that? So
this is good.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's basics like that, which I will, it's on my list to go and have a look at. And
sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but
no, but you're right, because it just shows that although I'm using this terminal in VS Code, I don't really know. I'm just essentially just copying and pasting commands a lot of the time, and I know a lot of the NPM and Gulp stuff just because I'm using those programs. But even navigating around and stuff like that. So in answer to the question, no, but it's on my list of things to do.
Okay. Yep. Fair play. Yep. So again, we just want to go over some basics, but just so you know that CD isn't create directory, you'll be good to brush on these. I'm so sorry I was laughing.
Change directory.
You had no reason to know this, but
I did look at Terminal probably on about week 3 of my programming journey.
Oh, right,
so I made some notes, but obviously never used it since.
Yeah.
No, fair play. I'll go back, and that is on my list, on my job prep list. Yeah.
So do you want to maybe show us your portfolio, given that that's one of the other things you got done in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah. Portfolio site then. Yeah, I used Gatsby for this, and so I spent a bit of time understanding what Gatsby was, what the point in it was, and thought, well, rather than me just learn a bit more about this, let me just go and have a fiddle with it. So I actually started off just using a template from Gatsby's site, which is quite useful.
Are they free, those templates?
I think, they are, yeah. So they're made by people and just thrown up there and say, hey, you can use this as a starting point. So I thought, well, let me just go and have a try. And I ended up, 8 hours later building a whole bloody portfolio, which I didn't actually intend on doing really, but I quite liked the template and wanted to keep it super simple. So had to play with it. And because of my React knowledge, it was quite easy to get things up and running. I basically stripped out a lot of the original templates. I didn't need a lot of the stuff, and some of it wasn't really my style.
No, I like how minimalistic it is, like decent.
Yeah. Well, it was that was always my plan, is to keep it super simple and just a minimal design, because I guess it's kind of how I live my life anyway. But it's like, what's the purpose of this? Okay, it's to show my projects, maybe link to my resume and have a contact. Everything else other than that is just, it's technically unnecessary, and it could be a potential distraction. So I always knew whatever framework or technology I used to build the portfolio, it would always be minimal. So I found this one and thought, that looks like the kind of style. Rejigged it all. So all of these functions work. I've got links to my GitHub, LinkedIn, Instagram. You've got different pages. I've got an about page, which has just got a bit of text about me, and some SVG images, which I haven't figured out how to resize them yet. That's next on my list. So that one's a bit bigger.
They look fine.
Again, exactly, yeah. But to me, in my OCD brain, that is way bigger than all the others, which are exactly the same uniform height. So, but it's something I want to go and learn anyway. So the portfolio literally then just has a link to the 3 projects, and in today's video, I've made a note that I've made a GIF, and I've got links to the repo and the live site.
That is sick. That is so cool. All right.
Yeah. So I've done a lot of reading about how to build a portfolio, what kind of things to put in there. So I'd been making notes for the last 5-6 months, knowing I'd eventually do a portfolio. So I had this almost checklist of use GIFs instead of images if you can. Link to the repos and the live site. Make sure your projects are hosted. So I knew I had all these written down already. So today I basically did a couple of GIFs, and also did one for the coaching generator as well, the question generator.
Nice.
Firebase I didn't really do one for because there isn't really much to do a GIF on, because you can't really see what that project does. It's more to just look at the code and demonstrate that I've been working with Firebase.
Yeah, maybe like a little, almost like if you could just show a little image here, like, a file, an arrow, and then the Firebase logo. Because I suppose this isn't very, doesn't convey anything,
No, you're right. It doesn't at all.
So if like a logo type of an image.
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think what I'll eventually do is add maybe a couple of my other projects here in the listing. But yeah, that's all it is. It's just a showcase for those projects. It's got a nice little animation on it, which is part of the template. There's a lot of other animations on there, which were just
ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's common.
They didn't need to be there, basically. And also, and this is actually quite interesting. I've installed an app, a Chrome extension on my on Chrome to remind me to breathe, because the reading I was doing about my coaching was about breathing and how to breathe properly, and I realised that now I'm sat down a lot looking at a screen, I shallow breathe quite a lot, and I've realised the importance of breathing through your nose and also expanding your lungs. I installed a Chrome extension to remind me to breathe.
Nice. All right.
So that's the portfolio page. The about page, like I said, text and the contact me, and the resume goes through to my PDF, which is hosted on Google Drive. So it's just, and which they can view from here, but also download as well.
Okay.
I think I'd like to figure out a better way of doing that, because my question is, well, what if I then go and update my resume and update that to Google Drive? It's going to give me a different link.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have to figure that out. And the thing I've been working on today was trying to get my portfolio.samchilcott.com to point to this Netlify app, because this is hosted on Netlify at the moment. So I've been spending today, trying to learn about the domain name system, DNS and stuff like that, which there's a lot in there.
It is.
And again,
I'm frustrated by it. It's just it's not nice, not easy.
No, but it's all, again, it's part. I guess you don't always have to know it. If you're just building software and then just giving it to someone else to do, you don't really need to know any of this. But I guess I've found there's a lot in there that it's sort of peripheral stuff, but it's not usually in your bog standard roadmaps. I guess. True. I mean, I've got it all in. Get out of the way, you beggar. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. Thank you. I've got a document here which is just called How Web Works. So I've got everything in there about HTTP servers.
Oh man! Stuff. Oh, this is gold.
Yeah. So I mean, I've got loads of documents like this for each language, each framework, like a whole one for debugging, DOM manipulation, whatever. But this document kind of houses all the stuff that you kind of need to know, but it's not always on the reading list. It's just like, have a look at how the web works, and they leave it at that. But I've really had to try and figure out, okay, well, how do I get samchilcott.com? How do I create like a subdomain? And then how do I change the name servers to get the subdomain to point to my Netlify? And it's like, there's a lot to learn in there, and I haven't really done it. Oh, I might. No, I think I've attempted it today, but I haven't done it. So, as far as I'm concerned, as far as that minimum viable portfolio, the last thing I need to do for that phase is to get it on a decent web address, so it just looks a bit more professional than having netlify.app.
Okay. Have you verified that it's even doable? What are you trying? Like, can you point an app hosted on Netlify to a different domain? Has anybody else done it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yes, and vice versa. So you can. Let's have a look. This is my portfolio site sort of to-do list that I was kind of referring to earlier.
Nice.
So this is almost like my checklist.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Netlify docs on. You can do it both ways. You can almost use Netlify for the hosting and point other websites to Netlify, and you can do it vice versa as well. So I've been trying to figure out what I need to do, because what's different for me is my domain is separate from my hosting. And on my hosting, I've got a WordPress installation there.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of extra factors in there which I haven't quite worked out. But
Sure.
I believe it's possible. I mean, I created the subdomain by having portfolio.samchilcott.com.
Yeah, subdomain, that's reasonable. I'm just wondering whether I'm
getting like an error message.
Yeah, I think it's doable. What I'm saying is that, if you're struggling, maybe for the first few hours trying to get it working, it's good to make that very basic assumption, at least, to see if that's even doable, right? Because it could be simple as, well, Netlify doesn't support it, done, right? And you could, spend quite a while maybe browsing for tutorials and, people trying to explain how to do it. But yeah, probably is. So it'll be fun to see you be able to get it there. Totally.
Yeah. So then that's the last thing, at least as far as the MVP page. I mean, there's a lot of stuff and more projects I'll do as I go forward. But in terms of, is this something I'd be happy showing publicly? It's 99% there pretty much. It's just that web address. But yeah, I'm sure I can figure that one out.
Yeah, no, decent. Nice. Can I make a design comment on your
sure.
on your minimal page?
Yes.
So I'm pointing at a screen right now. Above Sam Chilcott, there is very little margin, right?
Yes.
Then there is about twice as much margin between Sam Chilcott and the icons.
Yes.
Then there is almost the same margin, but I think a tiny bit smaller. I could be wrong though, between that and Portfolio About Resume. And then yet again, below Portfolio About Resume and the line, there is a bigger margin. So I feel all these four margins are slightly different to one another. And then if I follow through, even more so, right? The next margin is quite large.
Yes.
Then we have got, yet again, I think slightly larger margin.
All right, Voy, I get your point.
Following through.
No, you're bang on, and it irks me as well. And I guess this is one of the challenges I've had with this project is because I used a template, it's someone else's code, and it's harder for me to figure out where they've put the margins, even when I'm using what's it called, the inspector, because some of it's being generated by different parts of the Gatsby React app. Right.
So it's not all CSS, maybe it's kind of variant.
I don't quite know. I mean, but I thought, it's a minor thing which I know I can sort out at a later date. But yeah, just having that massive gap here annoys the shit out of me. Right. And ideally, what I want is to have this text in a box on the left, and then the skills in like a box of 3x3 or 3x4 over here.
Oh, I really like the skills. But I mean, fair enough. I really like the way it was laid out, but. Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, yeah. But no, you are exactly bang on. The margins are all wonky, and because I didn't write the initial code, it's harder for me to go back and tweak, which normally I'm okay with because my CSS knowledge is pretty good, but there's Sass in there, and there's also different components, and there's Sass for each component. Yeah. So, I mean, it was an even more of a state before I had a fiddle with it. But yeah, you're right. It's the minor styling details which I'm yet to finish. But in terms of the MVP, as far as can it show my projects, has it got a way of contacting me, and a resume is the English pronunciation, boy.
How did I pronounce it?
I mean, resume, which grammatically is correct because that's how you would pronounce resume. But in the context of a curriculum vitae, which is the Latin, more commonly used British equivalent, it's a resume.
No, it is. It is.
Very valid point, mate. And again, having that design eye and that OCD, it annoys me as well. So good spot.
No, fair play. Fair play. When it comes to overriding CSS, if you have no other way, just whack an additional CSS file and just make everything important. Then that's probably going to override everything. Not the cleanest way, but if you've got no other way to go about it, you just want to whack it out, then important everything.
That's a good idea. Yeah, because what was cool about this is because Gatsby's built on React, it was easier to understand because when you look at this visually, you just assume it's all one page, but actually what's happening is this is a header element, and then this is actually a link. So this about and the portfolio are two separate components essentially.
Makes sense.
And there was a footer on here as well, but I got rid of that mainly because
it looks cleaner this way.
I don't even think you need it for a start. But it was just cluttering. If I expanded all these projects and had a footer in there, then it was at the time it was a sticky one as well, so it would cover up stuff. But
maybe another advice I could just drop on this now is that it would be nice to see more details about each of these projects, as in like what technology have you used, what have you learned, why was it there for. I don't know, like I can see a little bit of that already. You already get an answer. All right, go on.
Yeah, exactly. No, you are bang on. And the general sort of approach I've done is to keep the portfolio itself minimal. So you've got a sentence here, but then when you go to the GitHub repo, which this expertly does, you can go to the README file and it gives all of that here. So I've got what the project is, what it used, what the user workflow is, and then also what I do for each project, which I haven't done yet, is for each project write down what I learned, what the challenges were, and how I would do it differently. And I'm going to put all of those in the README files of each respective project. So whoever looks at it, it's not available here, but if they want to go and understand it, I suppose I could put the technologies listed here or even the icons, but
no. So I think it's good you list it somewhere. That's a good place to start. I'm just trying
for each project.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
So what I'm thinking is, from the UX perspective, GitHub repo does not equal to me, here are more details about this project. The word GitHub repo can mean various different things. And me looking at it, I mean, I normally assume there will be some extra detail, but it will primarily be code. Whilst if your assumed user behavior is they have to go to my GitHub to learn more, either I phrase it differently, so you'd actually say it, a lot more information is in my GitHub repo, click on this, or you bring some of that information here. And you say, well, for more, you can read on the GitHub repo.
Brilliant.
At the same time, I'm wondering whether there is anything stopping you from having a duplicate of that information on both the repo and the website. Like, you're not essentially lacking real estate. You've got an entire page to be able to display that information if needed. I'm just trying to think, what are we gaining by hiding that information at this page and moving it somewhere else, other than the fact that you have to maintain it in two different places. But from UX perspective, I know you want to make it minimalistic and all.
No, you're right. You've got a good point. I think my counter argument to that would be, with the portfolio, you've got two audiences. You've got the recruiters or the HR people that they just want to see, have you got a portfolio? What have you done? And then that's almost like they're like the gatekeepers. So they don't need to know that stuff. They just need to say, oh, yeah, he's got a portfolio, looks half decent. Yeah, get him an interview. And then the more technical people who then are at the second stage of that, the second audience, that's when they will go into the repo and look at the code and do that. So I've deliberately kept it off because it's not really needed. The people that will want to look at it know where to go, I think is kind of what I'm trying to say. But you're right, even just adding a sentence, GitHub repo and project description, just having that there, people can then understand that that's there. I may be wrong, but just
I see your point. Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to disagree with you. I'm just going to ask the question. Here we're making an assumption that a person who knows coding, so not a recruiter, like we can cut them off from the equation because they'll just come and pass you over, right? So you've got that done. So the person who actually does will look for details. We're making an assumption that they will go to your GitHub. Like they'll be interested to go to your GitHub page. And I'm just kind of, asking myself, if I land on somebody's page to just quickly check their stuff, how likely I am going to be willing to go to GitHub, knowing that GitHub is for reading code for the most part. Like I don't know, maybe it's just maybe me having a weird way of looking at it, but to me the way it looks like is like you've got a project site where you've got maybe documentation and details, and then you've got another place where you've got the source code. And in many cases, the source code place for people will be GitHub. So to find majority of the information on a GitHub will not be the first thing I'll be thinking about. I'll be looking for their the project side. For instance, Gulp, right? We've been using Gulp recently. I won't go to Gulp's GitHub page because I'm sure they are hosted on GitHub to learn about Gulp. I'll find their website. I'll find what is their first, paragraph in their documentation, how they describe themselves. All that content is on their website. So, it could be just me following this thought process and thinking, okay, if I land on somebody's page, the GitHub repo is where the code is if I want to read the source code. That's when I'm not going to go for, I want to understand more about this project. Okay, you used Firebase clearly. What kind of Firebase? What did you find difficult? What was the project about? To me, that is not where GitHub will have answers for me. And I understand that you're trying to make this flow, that GitHub will have these answers. I'm just kind of raising up, the question of whether every developer will look at it this way. And if you can verify that this is a normal way to go about things, then again, it could be just me.
No, that's a valid point. And I think, making it more obvious that there are further notes and details within that link. Because I get the impression that... hang on a minute, I've just thought, I'm not even sure if I'm recording through the right mic, Can you hear this?
Yeah. Oh shit. Oh, so it's all gone through? No, nothing.
Oh fuck, I've been using this bloody mic all the time.
That's all right. It came through pretty good anyway.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, don't worry about switching.
They don't know that, we'll just carry on as normal.
Yeah.
We'll edit that little bit out.
I'm surprised how good that tiny mic is, frankly, because it's really good.
Yeah, it's quality.
Although it is silly that you're sticking next to that big mic for the entirety of the conversation. and it's pointless.
It's because Zoom's probably changed it.
Don't worry, man. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, not to worry. As long as sounds half decent.
Yeah. So can I follow that out with a question? If you were to move all the information from your GitHub pages to here, so that you wouldn't have all that description on the GitHub page, but you'd have it here.
Yeah.
What's your argument against doing that?
It would be too much information on the page. If I was to copy all of it over, but even I guess a simple paragraph on the technologies, I don't know. Yeah, what's my argument against it?
How do you mean too much? In what sense? Like it would be unreadable or?
No, it's just, it doesn't need to be here. It's like extracurricular clutter. Like doesn't need to be visible. It's almost like a bit like cable tidies. It's like having them tidied and out of view. It just looks better that way. Like they still need to be there. You just tucking them out until you actually need them, tucking them away. I don't know. I
see your analogy here, but
but point taken. I'll maybe add some more info over from that README, even if it's just 2 more sentences that explains a bit more about the project.
Can we look at those READMEs?
I'm trying to think of. I'm not sure if I've done all of them on every project. I've written them in every project Google document. But so I mean, in here I had like a user workflow, so it explains what this little project does and what the normal thing is. So it's like
so I agree. That is clutter. That is not what you want to have on the other place. So now we have this.
So you're talking about the challenges and whatnot.
Yeah. So what I would think that would be useful, but that's just me, without really thinking about it for too long. I'm thinking about what technologies you've used in that project, all of them. I just, if there was anything that, you found useful there, that would be great to know about. For instance, you did DOM manipulation on it. And I don't see it right here. Yeah, see, again, because this is for GitHub, it's a different type of description. Like, to speak about the fact that you use DOM manipulation on this particular app maybe wouldn't be appropriate here in the GitHub, but it would be possibly good to mention in the, in like an overall description that you could put on the other place, right?
That's a good point, yeah. I mean, you're right. GitHub in general is for the source code, but so I've got my source code here, but I've also got a README file which has extracurricular. It's going to have the spec that you sent me for the challenge, and then it's also going to have you little shite. Get out of the way. It's also going to have a section on my reflections. So what did I learn? What are my challenges? What would I do differently? So although it's that's all going to be part of the README.
Oh, so I'd love to see that on the web page. What were the challenges? What did you learn? Like, to me, sounds super interesting. Like, seeing your thought process.
I've done this for every project, but I've not transferred this onto the README yet. So I can see your point if having at least that section visible.
Well, that plus some of the other things. Like, for instance, you mentioned that on this project, you were challenged by your mentor not to use tutorials. That's another interesting point that would be nice to read about.
Yeah, but it's just, where does that information sit? So it's...
That's what I mean. To me, it sounds like both. Again, I can't think of a reason why it wouldn't be here. Because I agree that some of the things is clutter. Like, you're describing the functionality, what's the user flow for one thing, for another thing. I get, trying to curb it down to what's really necessary and putting the unnecessary stuff in the GitHub repo, then that's fine, sure. But if I'm, I would see it this way. Each click and each page navigation that you expect your user to take is like a point. The less points you can get by the end of their experience, the better. So like, if they can get to the information they need with a smaller amount of points, you're essentially going to be, winning. As long as, there are other points for readability and all that. So we spoke about that. But I'm thinking, if I need to add that extra click to get the information I would have expected, I'm here to learn about you. I landed on your page to learn about you because I'm considering hiring you. Now I'm going to click on these 3 buttons because I want to learn about your project. So let's say out of the 3, our app is we have to do something with weather, right? So I'm hiring for a company that has to do with weather. So I'm clicking on that because I want to learn as much as I need to know about you and your experience with building a weather app. So I'm already at a state where I want to learn more about it. I already am, when I'm clicking on it, at a state of I want to learn more about it. So I feel like if you take that condition where I'm wanting to learn more about this project and you hide some of the information away from me behind another user click, then just from my perspective, I would feel like you're adding that extra little credit that you want to be reducing. You're adding that extra little step, that a user will be required to take. That, like I say, even if at the current state isn't even clear, and you could argue that it may be difficult to make it very clear. Even if you said GitHub repo and more description, or like more details, or more details out of my GitHub repo, people could still not understand that, you actually explain a lot more about it there. No matter how bespoke you make it, how kind of verbose and present that statement is, you still may get someone who goes like, well, I don't want to go to your GitHub page because, GitHub is for code. They may, follow the same principle of thinking here. So, again.
Yeah, good point. No, you're right. I've just made a note, reduce the clicks.
Kind of, yeah. So, yeah, that's the point. I've clicked on Project Weather App because I want to learn about the weather app. I wouldn't want to have to click again to learn about weather because I already made that click.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, but again, this is just me and my, UX approach. I'm not a UX designer. So if you feel like you have reasons to go otherwise, then,
No, I mean, these are all valid points, yeah, because I think even just the term GitHub repo, people would just assume that that's just the source code, nothing else. So they wouldn't even know the existence of that README and all the extra, text about what I've learned and stuff. So
yeah. So again,
I will definitely change that.
Whilst minimalistic is nice, like just that one sentence as it is currently feels a little bit empty and kind of cheap.
Yeah.
And you want to give more sort of impression of, well, I did a lot there, like showcase, and brag about it.
Yeah, it doesn't do it justice, does it?
Kinda.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome point. Yep. Noted.
I'm doubting myself, to be honest. I'm saying all these things,
it makes sense.
I'm wondering whether this is good advice, but...
You're right. Even if I just added an extra sentence or just changed the wording on this, it would instantly make the UX better because people don't even know that I've done that stuff. They don't know it's in there. And if I can bring some of that inside this clip, because one of the questions I had was, do I even need this animation? Can I just have all 3 projects displayed, preferably above the fold when people come in?
Yeah,
it's only because that animation was part of the template. It's there and it does kind of look cool. But again, it's an extra click, so people have to click this, and they have to click that.
No, I'd probably say Like, think about it. How would Facebook look like if you had to click on every post to open it up? Right, like your Facebook wall or Instagram wall. If you had to open every post, you don't. You just come and browse. Go down.
No, you're right.
And if you want to learn more about, what happened to your friends today, you just scroll down. So if I want to learn more about Sequential code, I just scroll down. As long as your page isn't, like 20 pages long, so, you've got infinite information here. We've got, 3-4 apps maybe here. It'll be perfectly fine to just have it all displayed and laid out. And, each page essentially, like each project, could occupy an entire page of scrollable, content. It'll be fine. It doesn't have to be tiny and clean, right? If I'm interested, about learning about you, then I'll be happy to scroll through. And obviously having like a nice little maybe, table of contents sort of on the top, sort of just names of the projects, so you can click on them and that will scroll down the page for you. It's very easy to do. That could improve. Yeah, the point you just said, less clicks, right? That's kind of what it's about. Yeah, having sort of anchors that help navigate is good. But if there is a possible user experience that avoids clicks, then maybe we're gaining here.
Yeah. Noted.
No. Cool. Sorry, I just went completely into that UX side of it.
No, it's brilliant. I think it will definitely help a lot of people. Yeah.
But yeah, cool. Still. Very impressive. I don't know if I said it already, but I was quite impressed that you managed to pull it off. And in a couple of weeks that you also had that other challenge set for you. So great. And we made a decision to avoid doing it from scratch, which I think now that I look at it from you having done it already, it was a good decision, at least for now.
I can always come back and do another one.
Yeah, that's
which I'm sure it will evolve over the years. I'll look back in this in a year's time and think, what is that?
Oh, geez, that's so true. Like, I think I don't change mine just because I'm not looking for a job for the last couple of years, maybe longer than that. But I'm embarrassed. Not badly. But
if you don't need to, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah, true. I only get spam email through it now, so it's all good.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's going to be kind of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy with the MVP as it stands. I've got a few tweaks that I'll probably make over the next couple of days then. And the points you made,
decent,
just about the UX and the number of clicks really does make sense to me. And if I'm trying to be minimal in visual presentation, I think it makes sense to make it minimal as in effort the user has to do.
Yeah.
So I'll go back and tweak this the next couple of days, and I guess in our next chat we'll talk about the next steps.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, fair enough. So feel free to just give that a review. Obviously, yet again, that this is this is not the most important part of your programming journey, like you've noticed. So keeping it minimal and keeping it like an MVP is definitely a good call at this stage. And yeah, let's just try to do the review on the actual job prep next time we talk. Maybe try tackling the terminal in the upcoming days as well. It would be a good thing to set for yourself.
Point.
There's no need to challenge it as we do with everything else, because frankly it really is about watch 2-3 tutorials on basics of terminal. How do you navigate? How do you make a folder? How do you list files? They're really there is a lot more to it, and using terminal is a great skill, but I feel at your stage that probably will be enough to just be fluent enough to be able to to just do a navigation around. That should be good. And we could then
I'll have a dabble.
Perfect. Yeah, we could review these two
Sweet.
next time we go.
Yeah, cool. No, I appreciate all the input, support, and mentoring to this stage, mate.
You're welcome.
Just genuinely grateful. I mean, like I said, these challenges you set are they're so well tailored just to my skill level and the gaps that I want to fill. So I can't stress enough how much how to finish that sentence. I can't stress enough how helpful that is, having that extra input, and that's it's a tailored challenge. So thank you.
You're welcome. It's all good. It's all good.
Yes. Yeah, no worries, mate. So are we recording? Are we doing one of those?
Are we not?
Let's kill two birds with one stone. Are you still recording?
Yeah. The awkward goodbyes should be this call sign of our online chats that we don't know how to finish them.
Well, okay. Well, thank you for today's chat. It's been a pleasure meeting you, and I will take my main takeaways from today have been. Let's see what notes I've made.
He's making notes. Look at the involvement.
Oh, yeah. He's
making notes as we talk.
If you struggle to figure out something, check the assumption that it is actually doable. It's mainly I guess my main takeaway is the user experience and the number of clicks on the portfolio site.
Cool.
Obviously I've learned a shed load from doing the projects, but that's a really cool point, because I do pride myself on workflows and process improvement and user experience, and it's not quite there with my portfolio. So I will endeavor to just improve it. I mean, it's cool as it is, but it can be better quite easy to change that. So
just first steps in, now just kind of polishing it up a bit, getting it to those 80%. Definitely.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay,
so once again, well done on everything. Doing the Gulp challenge. Very proud of you, man. The portfolio as well. And
thank you.
Congratulations once again, completing the 100 days of code. Even Marina is saying congratulations. Yeah.
Yes,
everyone's very happy for you, man. He's saying, Tien.
She's saying,
All right, cool, man. So best of luck with the rest. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much, mate.
All right.
Ciao.
Bye.
Fucking microphone. What an idiot.